So, good morning. Today, I want us to talk about the alchemy of giving, and we are going to look at giving, the reactivation of a hidden truth. I want us to look at giving and understand it in a new way, using the scriptures, but in a very different way. So, we will first ask ourselves, what is alchemy? Alchemy is a form of speculative thought that, amongst other claims, tried to transform base metals such as lead or copper into silver or gold. It also sought to discover cures for diseases and a way of extending life. So, another definition of alchemy is a seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or combination. Now, when you look at the alchemy of giving, what is that alchemy of giving? It is the transformation of the traditional idea of charity or generosity. It is moving from a surface understanding of a concept that has been taught so much that it has lost its true meaning. It is also breaking the mold of perception so that people see the light. So let's look at the scriptures. Proverbs 11:24. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Luke 6:38. Give and it shall be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Yeah. Another verse, let's look at it. Matthew chapter 6, verse 3 to 4. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. So, let's dive deep. Let's understand what the alchemy of giving is. It is not about the literal giving to the poor. Jesus said, "The poor you will always be among you, and you can help them when you want." That is Mark chapter 17, verse 7, part A. There is a deeper lesson here. The poor one is your outer man, your humanity, who can do nothing. John 5:30. John chapter 5, verse 30. The one who gives and becomes richer is the one who casts his cares on him, for he cares for you. Do not be anxious about anything, but with prayer and thanksgiving. One learns to give and live from his awareness and is able to give to the poor, his human experience. Another lives from his outer life and lacks because they have abandoned me and built cisterns that cannot hold water. This is a statement that is from several Bible verses, and I want us to decode that statement. So the poor is the outer man. This is the ego, the limited human identity, the flesh that feels separate from God. It is perpetually in a state of lack, anxiety, and need, who can do nothing. It is the cistern that cannot hold water, as we hear in Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 13, trying to find sustenance in its own limited resources. The rich inner man is awareness. This is the conscious awareness of the Christ within, the divine spirit, the unshakable connection to the source. It is the well of water springing up into everlasting life. John chapter 4, verse 14. It is inherently whole, complete, and lacks nothing. So here we have defined the poor man not as the outer beggar, that we know, but as your human self. And the rich man is the inner man, the awareness that men call God. So, what is giving? Giving then is redefined as the act of surrender and faith. It is not merely giving money, but it is casting your cares. 1 Peter 5 verse 7. Giving your anxiety over to the inner man, the awareness, I am. It is also prayer and thanksgiving. Philippians 4 6. Giving your request from a place of lack, or rather, giving your request from the place of your human experience and receiving the grace and power of the inner man. Another point we need to look at is abiding in the vine. This we see in John chapter 15 verse 5, acknowledging that without me you can do nothing, which is the ultimate admission of the poverty of the outer man, the man who appears on the ID, the man who has a culture, a nationality, a human body, which is that ultimate admission of that outer man, his poverty, and acknowledging the wealth of the inner man, who is the vine. Yeah. So this is bringing out these scriptures in a different way. So let us reread, or let us reframe scripture with the understanding that we have given. Proverbs 11:24. One gives freely, or rather surrenders his anxiety, his limited human will, yet grows all the richer. He abides more deeply in the peace and power of the awareness. Another withholds what he should give. He clings to his ego, tries to solve everything from his outer man, and only suffers want, remains in a state of anxiety and lack. So Proverbs 11:24 shows us two people, one who lives from his awareness within, and one who lives from his senses and reason without. The one who will always remain poor is the one who depends on his outer man with his limited knowledge and capacity for sustenance. And the one who is always giving and rich is the one who lives from his awareness. He shapes his reality. So he always has something. Then Luke 6:38, let's rephrase that. So give, when you are told to give, it means surrender your limited human experience to the divine, and it will be given to you. You will receive a full measure of spiritual peace, presence, and power. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. An abundance of grace that your limited human vessel can barely contain. That is what is poured into your human experience. That's what it means, being poured on into your lap. Yeah. So, the poor you will always have with you. This is also an interesting verse, Matthew 26:11. It takes on its deepest meaning that your humanness, your outer man, will always be with you. It is a constant. The spiritual work is not to eradicate your humanness, but to help it, to continually minister to it from the infinite resources of the I am within. You give peace you give the peace of Christ to your anxious mind. You give the strength of the Lord to your weak flesh. So, when you look at the alchemy of giving, what are we saying? The entire cycle of receiving and giving is an internal dialogue. The Lord, your I am awareness, gives to the poor your human experience. The person who becomes richer is the one who has learned to let this internal flow happen. They live from their awareness and can therefore give peace, strength, and love to their own human circumstances. So, the person who becomes poorer is the one who lives from his outer life, cut off from the source, trying to solve spiritual problems with human solutions, building broken cisterns that can never be built. This is forgetting who you are and thinking you are the reasoning mind, the senses, and the human body. These are garments. but the animating spirit behind them is who you truly are. So, this is not a rejection of physical charity, it's a revelation of the inner mechanics that make true, powerful, selfless charity even possible. You can only truly give to the poor outside of you when you are no longer identified as the poor inside you. So, do we transform, or how do we alchemize giving? Let us look at Joel 3, verse 10. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weakling say, I am strong. Now, remember, the plowshare and the pruning hook is the tool of the outer self. The spear and the sword is the weapon of the inner man. The beating is the surrendering of the outer man's faculties to the inner man's power. It is a call of deep alchemy, from a life of reaction and effort to a life of creation and mastery. Now, going back to that verse, let us begin decoding it. We have said that the plowshare and pruning hook is the tool of the outer man. The sword and the spear is the weapon of the inner man. It is the inner man who wages the war, and it is the outer man that tends to the spoils of war. That is why David said in 1 Samuel 30:24, the share of the man that went to war shall be equal to the share of the man that stays with the bags. And we are admonished in Ephesians 6, verse 12, for we wage war not against flesh and blood. So, who you are on the outside, the farmer, is a result of who you are on the inside, the warrior. The human experience is the crop fought for by the awareness within. Your outer life is the spoils of war of your inner life. So we must begin thinking of it in that way, that we need to transform ourselves to see beyond what we are told in scripture. And I want us to begin understanding that. So this is just a beginning. I hope you've gotten something, and I know I'll share more as we go deeper into understanding the esoteric side of scripture. Thank you.